There is in physics the observer effect. Basically, light is a wave until you observe it. When you observe it, it's a particle. When you observe it, it's fixed in one place. When you're not observing it, it's in many places. So that right there is an indication that we are constantly creating our reality. That part of understanding, what do I need to do to get closer to my vision? It's a tough thing. Some of these luminaries, they can do it in one area of their life, right? Think about Elon Musk. In, work, he's amazing. His relationship life sucks, is a disaster. Because he knows how to take a vision at work and chunk it down into the steps that need to happen to get a person on Mars, for example. But I don't think he has any idea how to do that in his personal life. And so that's what this tool is about.
Mr. Perlman.
Hi.
How we doing?
Good, Justin. Nice to be here.
Can you share a defining moment when you realized that you could shape your own reality?
A defining moment when I realized that I could shape my own reality. Well, for me, it came through work. When we started Zumba, which was one of my companies, Zumba Fitness, we had no idea what we were doing. And we were, in our 20s, and what we did have was a vision, an inevitable vision. To us, it was inevitable. And we were the smallest, we were the joke of the fitness industry. We had a little dance. Our front guy didn't even speak English. Everybody laughed at us. We would show up to these fitness conventions, and we had this shitty little booth. The sign was always crooked. And at the time, fitness was about efficiency. So you had 24-hour fitness and 6-minute abs and all these machines that could do all types of things and calorie burn, and and we had something that was highly emotional, but it couldn't compete with those products. But the point is, we saw it so clearly that it became, and that's probably because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know why it couldn't become what we had envisioned. Our naivete worked for us, not against us. And I remember it was maybe 2005 or something. It just kind of landed. It's like a picture slowly coming into focus, and all of a sudden it's in focus, and it can't be any other way. And that is what I think people mean when they talk about Steve Jobs distorting reality. It's not that, from the outside they're distorting reality, but from the inside, what it looks like is you see something so clearly and so inevitably that it just becomes, because that's how that phenomenon works. When you truly envision something, it becomes your reality, and everything that you see serves it, and works for that reality. So that was the first kind of the first experience of that phenomenon. Let's call it the luminism phenomenon. Then I started to see that while I could create great things consciously, my unconscious was also creating fucking horrible things,
right,
in my life. And so the challenge became, how do I bring more consciousness into those areas of my life that I'm not consciously creating. And so that's been a journey.
Absolutely. How do you find bringing the unconscious into your conscious mind to play any role in that sort of luminism phenomenon that you were just talking about?
Yeah, no, it's about getting clear on all aspects of my life. I had a very clear vision for work, for my creations, but I didn't have a clear vision for my relationships.
Mm,
I didn't have a very clear vision for my body, my health, and my fitness. And so, yeah, that's been the journey to really think that through, document that, add some milestones and some goals and some daily habits around that. Um, and of course, that's when I met John Butcher, your dad, who had mastered all areas of his life,
mm.
and so he's been an inspiration to me in that sense. Yeah,
Absolutely. So getting
I
clear on your whole life vision was
and like I so I'm very good friends with David Data. He's been a teacher of mine, and he's a master at relationships, at how to create polarity in relationships. He can master that. Then I'm very good friends with Wim Hof. He has mastered his body. He can do whatever he wants with his body. Um, and then and I had mastered brand building and developing businesses and that type of stuff, but I couldn't do it in the areas that Wim Hof and David Data could do it, and so that's the challenge. It's turning my life into a masterpiece, not just creating masterpieces.
I like that.
Yeah,
Bringing that sort of one track talent into all categories.
right,
Very
right.
nice.
Yeah,
How would you define a luminist?
luminous is a person that believes that their reality is theirs. Not only believes that acknowledges
Mm,
that their reality is theirs and that they have the power to create their reality, whether they're doing it consciously or not. They're always creating their reality. So it's more than a belief. It's acknowledged that that
mm,
is true. There is in physics the observer effect. So basically, light is a wave until you observe it. When you observe it, it's a particle.
right.
When you observe it, it's fixed in one place. When you're not observing it, it's in many places. And so that right there is an an indication that we are constantly creating our reality. If a tree falls in the forest, the sound happens in your ear.
Right.
It doesn't make a sound unless there's an eardrum and a brain to process that. A sunrise happens in your eyes and in your brain. Um, Everything happens inside of you.
The universe is mental.
The universe is mental. That's a great, yeah.
Yeah, man. The refraction of light through water particles is how the human eye and brain perceives rainbows, but they don't necessarily exist until we observe them, right?
That's right.
Interesting.
That's right.
Very interesting. What inspired you to pursue this path of luminism?
Well, I believe that the biggest problem in our world today, and my own personal biggest problem, is the idea that you're a victim to circumstances,
Mm,
that things happen to you. Uh, that's a a fiction, and while there are circumstances that happen in somebody's life, the way you can approach them is different if you believe that they happen for you,
Right.
not to you. Um, and and so I think this victim mentality is just uh, a plague,
It's a disease.
and it's a disease, and it's going to destroy lives. So I believe that luminism is the path out.
The victim killer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Marcus Aurelius said you can't change what happens to you, but you can change your reaction to
Yeah,
whatever
right.
it is that happened.
Of course. And there's the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mm,
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. What does transformation mean to you, and how is it manifested in your life?
Transformation is growth to me. It is it is being able to grow beyond being a victim,
Mm.
from being a victim to a creator. I mean, I think that's the single biggest transformation that anybody can go through, is to do that. So.
Transformation can be defined as a radical change in state or behavior, and radical is the key word there, because if you just uh, a caterpillar does not just merely change into a butterfly. There's a radical change in the state of a thing by its nature. Carbon
Sure.
can turn into a diamond if there's enough pressure, things of that nature.
Sure. So I guess you could, you know, the difference between change and transformation is the speed,
Mm.
I guess, but that's a gray area. Yeah.
What's the vision that drives you today?
It's the vision of luminism, and the vision of luminism is that human beings, acknowledging that they are the creators of their reality and taking responsibility for that.
Mm.
Um, I believe we're at a cataclysmic shift
Mm.
in the evolution of humanity, as profound as going from the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, where we went from illiterate farmers to literate workers that worked with the mind.
Mm.
Now we're automating the mind, and we're going into a new era.
Right.
And the life raft that is going to carry us into that new era is this idea of luminism, of of evolving into basically gods.
Mm.
We're evolving into true creators. We've lived through the era of rationality.
Yeah.
Now we're going into a new era, and the new era is creative. And the people that can embrace that are the people that are going to thrive in the age of AI.
Absolutely.
The rest are going to perish. Unfortunately, they're going to go into, addiction, mind diseases. That's upon us. But some are going to ascend, and I think that those are the people that embrace the ideological movement of luminism.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about how the Industrial Revolution automated strength. It used to be, can you till the field? Can you not till the field? Can you kill the cow? Can you not kill the cow? And then the creation of machines and the automation of strength kind of changed the what humans sort of felt about themselves. I'm no longer just a body. I'm now a mind, and we're starting to automate the mind. What does that leave to humans?
Yeah, well, one thing that is very important is that um, the anxiety that we're feeling right now as AI rolls in is very similar to the anxiety that the farmers were feeling when
Mm,
the machines started to take over their livelihood. There weren't really jobs then. Most people were slaves, but or you know, whatever. It wasn't their it wasn't a job the way we know a
yeah,
job, right? But yeah, they got they a lot of them perished um, because they were identified with their body. They
right.
were over-identified with their body. Then the Industrial Revolution happens, and um, Descartes says, "I think, therefore I am." The power of that. I think, therefore I am. It's not I move, therefore I am. I'm a body, therefore I am. No, no, no. This is different. I think, therefore I am. So, very powerful statement.
Mm,
And we over identified with, I think. So, if I don't think, then I am not. If something thinks better than me, then I am useless. That's the crux of this anxiety that we're feeling
right.
as a species. Well, I think that if the Industrial Revolution taught us that we were more than bodies, we were also minds. The, I mean, the AI revolution is teaching us that we're more than minds. We're also hearts.
Mm,
We're the people that can receive a creative revelation, and who knows where that phenomenon comes from, and can use AI and technology to materialize it. And now at at very fast.
yeah,
Um, but the important thing is, can you receive a creative revelation? Because that's not something that AI can do.
exactly.
AI can think creatively, very creatively, but it cannot have the phenomenon of, the writer's writing and the characters come alive and they tell the writer the way the story's going to go. Stephen King says that writing a novel is like finding a fossil in the ground, and your job is to take it out of the ground with as little damage as possible. Everybody knows the story of Michelangelo chiseling away at the statue of David. He wasn't creating David, he was liberating David.
It's freeing him.
That feeling, that kind of, and every artist says that didn't come from me, it just came through me.
Right.
That is not something that AI can do because it doesn't. It's a highly intuitive, highly spiritual process that doesn't happen through more compute. More compute doesn't give you that. More compute cannot create, Shakespeare.
What's what's the process for you getting out of the way of whatever it is flowing through you? What's the process of you stepping aside and letting it happen as opposed to being the driving force and trying to force it into reality?
Yeah, so it's humility. First of all, approaching it with humility, approaching it knowing that I am an imposter. It is not me. And the moment I think it is me is the moment it leaves me. Um, um, it's getting into what I call the lucid state, which is the inverse of the flow state. Flow state is when you're lost in an activity. You're trying to get somewhere, get something. This you're trying to receive something, and so there are many tools. One is preparing your body, and what you're preparing your body for is sexual transmutation. Sexual energy and creative energy are the same thing. In yoga, the second chakra is both procreative and creative. And it's about transmuting that sexual energy, learning how to not throw it away, but
Use
harness
it.
it and circulate it. And then and then that's for preparation, and then to actually receive a creative revelation, I've tried everything, but I like the tried and true techniques that Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali used to use, which is to get into the hypnagogic state, which is the state in between being awake and being asleep. It's that in between state where your melatonin is active. Sometimes I take melatonin and I go into a dark room and just sensory deprivation, so that the projection machine that is our mind is projecting onto a blank canvas. When you're in the dream state, when your melatonin is activated, um, you are you're hallucinating. You're
Right.
hallucinating into a blank canvas. When you're in what we call the real world, you have a feedback loop, right? You can't I can't push my index finger through my hand. But this is actually a technique that lucid dreamers use to realize that they're lucid dreaming. So you do this many times during the day. You get into the habit of doing this often during the day, 20 times a day for many days. And then one day you're dreaming and you do this because it's a habit, and you realize that your finger goes through your hand and you're like, "Oh, I'm dreaming." And so you wake up in your dream, and then you're projecting onto a blank canvas. Then you can create anything inside of your dream. And so you're using a sleep in that way. In my workshops, I sometimes don't let people sleep, very little sleep, to
Wow.
keep them in that hypnagogic state. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So the deprivation of sleep kind of allows the dreaming state to mix almost with your awake state.
Yeah. Yeah. It allows you to. The key difference is that you lose the feedback loop, and so you can really project whatever the fuck you want onto the canvas of your dream, right? And really get to know your hallucination. Really, Tesla used to get visions of his, inventions, and he would keep them in his head for a long time to get to know every nook and cranny of it before building it. So this is what that allows you to do. It allows you to truly become delusional in the best sense of the word. There's a story of Walt Disney when he was trying to get a loan at a bank to build Disney World in Orange County, and there were no roads in Orange County, and the banker laughed at him. And he's like, "Well, you don't understand. By the time I'm done with my park, there's going to be 5-lane highways to and from the park. And today there's 5-lane highways to and from the park." So he saw it. That's the only thing. That's the most important thing that he did. He saw it all completely. It was inevitable to him.
Right.
And so that the power of being able to see every nook and cranny of what you're building, and in this case of your life.
And not only that, but to be able to receive it and then visualize it, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about the righteous state of delusion that Walt Disney was in? Has that ever happened to you?
Is that what?
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. It happened with Zumba, as I said. It happened with Mindvalley, my second venture. And it's happening right now with this third venture that I'm working on, that we're working on. And yeah, it has a quality of being inevitable. It has a quality of being more real to you than the real world. And because of that, it has very negative consequences. So Steve Jobs, saw the iPhone before the iPhone was possible. And engineers would come and say that's impossible what you're trying to build, and he would get very angry and fire them and throw staplers at their head and stuff like that. And it's because you're negating his reality.
Yeah.
In his world, it's real. It already happened. That's like if you negate my reality, like if you tell me that the sky's not blue over and over again, at some point I'm going to get pissed off because it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
The denial of what is real tends to make
Yeah.
people a little bit angry.
Yeah. And the other one is that you lose touch with reality, so you start lying.
Mm.
Right. So Elizabeth Holmes, I don't think that she was lying on purpose. I think she really saw her technology working, her Theranos technology working, and it wasn't, and it was destroying people's lives. It was giving people fake reports, blood tests.
Oh, right.
And so, you just have to be very careful with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dance between what is objectively real, I can't put my hand through this couch, and also the dance between what I believe to be real, like
Right.
Steve Jobs with the iPhone, or Elizabeth Holmes with the Theranos technology.
Yeah. But that's why, what we're building is a tool, is an AI that helps you not just imagine what you're doing, and imagine it fully with that level of detail that Walt Disney had, but it also leverages the rule of cause and effect, so that the effect happens, and you're not left in spinning your wheels in your vision state, and not actually getting matter to conform to your vision.
Become the cause of the effect you would like to see in the world.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you ensure that your actions align with your core values and long-term goals?
Well, through this tool. So we've built, and it hasn't, right? Like in my life, I'm very good at envisioning things, but due to the pain of not being able to land that, right, to materialize that, we've been building this tool for a long time, and it's finally ready for prime time. And this tool allows you to feed it your vision. It helps you create your vision, but then it does all the work for you, so that you can understand what do you need to do every single day. What are the 12 habits that you need to tick off every single day to put one foot in front of the other and get closer to your life vision.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all just what can I do today to get there, or at least closer tomorrow.
Yeah, and the there haven't been many luminaries in history. In history, there have been a few people that come around every, generation to change the world. And that's because that part of understanding, what do I need to do to get closer to my vision? It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Some of these luminaries, they can do it in one area of their life, right? And then other areas, I don't know, think about Elon Musk. In, work, he's amazing. His relationship life sucks, is a disaster. Because he knows how to take a vision at work and chunk it down into the steps that need to happen to get a person on Mars, for example. But I don't think he has any idea how to do that in his personal life, and so that's what this tool is about.
Right. Again, taking that one track talent and applying it to all categories, all facets.
Right.
Very interesting. what were the biggest challenges you faced on your journey to becoming a luminist?
Well, it's being able to transfer the skill set that I developed at work specifically to relationships.
Mm,
Relationships for me are the hardest area of my life. So it's still a work in progress.
right.
I am a luminist, but I'm not a luminary.
Mm,
It's a work in progress. So the difference between a luminist and a luminary is that a luminist acknowledges the fact that, I'm responsible for my reality. I am creating my reality all the time. A luminary is a person who has created the reality of their dreams.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're a black star. They've burned so bright that they've left their mass behind.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever faced skepticism or resistance from others about your approach? And if so, how did you respond?
I've faced skepticism my whole life. I was I felt a lot of shame about being the crazy kid. When I was growing up, I was the crazy kid. I was institutionalized because I was crazy. I was sent to military school.
Mm,
Um, and then I started to realize that my particular type of crazy is in certain areas is genius, and it's, at work, because I see things that other people don't. And so for me, the skepticism became, in the beginning it was external. It was,
right.
teachers and, some family members and stuff like that. But over time, it became the inner critic. The inner critic was saying, no, no, that's crazy. You should just, live in the kind of reality that's been passed down, that's
Yeah.
tried and true, that bores the shit out of me. But try to live there because that's safe. That's middle of the road. That's where you should be. Um, I don't believe that skill set of being able to just conform is going to serve anybody in the future because
Agree.
we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world that is wild. We live in a world that, today LA is burning. Tomorrow, there's going to be a humongous amount of joblessness because of AI. Um, the type of uh, chaos that we're facing can only be organized by a mind that truly thinks for itself.
Mm.
So so I've started to embrace the crazy.
The It's very interesting what you just said. The only mind that can organize all that is going on right now is the one that can think for itself, or in other words, the sovereign mind, the sovereign
That's
individual.
right. That's right.
Very interesting.
That's right. I mean, another part of another threat to humanity obviously is the victim mentality. The victim
Mm,
mentality is espoused by big institutions that want you to behave the way that they want you to behave.
mm,
We're going to see a lot of totalitarian states. We're going to see a lot of people just conform out of fear. And we saw that with COVID. We saw people conforming, just saying, take away our rights, take away our individual rights, do whatever you want, but make us feel safe.
mm,
And that's the epitome of victim mentality,
right.
right? That's how you create victim mentality, through fear mongering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The just with COVID, the sheer amount of people that said exactly what you just said, take away my rights, my bodily autonomy, as long as it's for the good of all and to make all feel safe.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting sort of, it's not necessarily counterintuitive, but when you really think it down, it kind of is. Taking away everyone's individual rights for the sake of everyone seems kind of
Right.
silly.
Collectivism. I mean, look, the logic is just a logic rooted in fear. The individual is subservient to the collectivist, to the collective. And that can happen on the left or the right. Fascism on the right, communism on the left. Those experiments don't work. They never have. So I think look, the idea, politics is a very new idea. 500 years ago, sovereignty was with the church, and the church had a monopoly on information. They had priests that would, copy books, and they promoted the sciences. And then one piece of technology came around and disrupted the whole thing, which was the printing press. Printing press comes out, the scientific revolution takes off, and the church goes on a killing spree. The 30 Years' Wars, killing all the, the scientists, Galileo and these people. And in the ashes of that comes politics, modern politics as we know it. And politics is now where the church was 500 years ago, just full of corruption, full of propaganda, full of, manipulation of truth. And people are starting to realize, especially through COVID, that they're being manipulated. And the next era is the era of the sovereign individual. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the luminaries in history who have inspired you most and explain why?
That's a great question. Well, for me particularly, it's the artists. It's the all the artists. I mean, it's just the people that can see something, and also the people that see it for its own sake. They can't help but create it,
right?
Whatever it is that they're seeing, and they're not creating it for an extrinsic reason. They're not creating it to make money. They're not creating it to save the world. They're creating it because a world without it doesn't make sense. And for me, that's the inspiration of. That's the reason I do what I do.
It's a universal mandate to bring this into reality, or let it flow through you.
Yeah. In a way, that these people work for God. They don't work for themselves. They're not trying to make money out of it. They're not trying to, whatever. The God spark has landed on them, and they take responsibility for that, and then they go and create whatever it is that they're seeing. There's a story, Michael Jackson used to call his producer in the middle of the night and say, get in the studio, because if we don't record this song tonight, Prince is going to record it. The God spark will leave you if you don't take responsibility for it when it lands on you.
Yeah. Taking responsibility is a core tenet of luminism, just because if the antithesis of taking responsibility is the victim mentality. That's everything right. Happens to me, my life happens to me instead of from me or for me.
That's right.
Nathaniel Branden wrote a book called Taking Responsibility, and his publisher told him, if you title this book "Taking Responsibility," no one will buy it.
Right.
And alas, his publisher was right, but it was one of the best books he ever wrote because it was, it was a precursor to Luminism. Absolutely.
That's right. And that's a great example, right? He got a vision for a book. It was that way.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't creating it to sell a lot of copies. His publisher, wanted to sell a lot of copies, but that's not the reason to create it.
Exactly.
I've actually been writing a book as well, and I've been talking to a lot of publishers, and their first question is always, why are you writing the book? And I thought that was a very beautiful question in the beginning, but then later on I started to realize that what they're actually asking is, what are you selling in the back end of this book?
Mm.
And then it broke my heart, because now I realize that the majority of nonfiction books out there are just marketing pamphlets for whatever the hell somebody's selling on the back of it. My answer to that question is because I can't be in a world where that book doesn't exist.
A world
That's
without
the
this
only
makes no
reason
sense.
why you should write a book.
Right.
Nothing else. Everything else is dog shit. Bullshit.
How do you apply the principle of cause and effect to your work or personal life?
So that's the challenge for me. It's I'm very good at envisioning a life, a great life. I have a very thorough vision for my life, but then making sure that every moment of my life is pointed in that direction. Every action in my life is pointed in that direction. That's the hard part. That's where most luminaries in the past, or luminists in the past, failed. Right. So now, with this tool, with the life guide, I am able to understand what I need to do every day and do it. And it's simple. I mean, actions are micro actions, are simple actions, but all those micro actions add up to a day that either moves you towards your life vision or away from it. And so that's how I'm doing it now.
Yeah, the micro actions and habitual actions that you choose to do stack up into who you are. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said we are what we do every day.
Correct.
Or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. If you smoke weed every day, chances are people can call you a stoner, and they're right, because you do that every day. If you work out every day, people can call you a workout freak or whatever, and they're right, because you work out every day. It's things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
What advice would you give to someone just beginning to explore their potential as a luminist?
To think big, to think really, really big. Consciousness and matter are a continuum. Everything that you see that is not nature, right? Everything that is man-made has been an idea in somebody's head. And then later on, it was created. And anything is possible. Anything. As long as you can think it and create an action plan for it. So I would just say, think big. Think bigger than the institutions and the frameworks that make you want to think small, that make you want to be a victim. There's nothing more powerful than the human imagination. This is what separates us from animals. Animals cannot imagine. This is what makes us. This is the God part of us. The fact that we can imagine things and turn them into reality. And so the sky's the limit, and more so now than ever, that we have technology that can help us materialize anything we want. Anything we want. So think big and call yourself out when you're being a victim. Call yourself out when you're in fear and you can't, you feel like you just can't do anything about it. Oh, it's the color of my skin. Oh, it's my genitals. Oh, it's my, all of that is nonsense. For every one of those people, color of skin, genitals, I can I can show you many that have those genitals and have that color of skin and have the, what have you, that have created their own reality to their liking.
Right.
So that's not an excuse.
Absolutely.
And stop using it as an excuse, because not only are you affecting your life, you're giving permission to others to have that same bullshit mindset, and it's an epidemic.
The self-awareness required to call yourself out on being a victim is pretty large. It's my buddy Kenny Aronoff has the the 10 commandments of Christianity is, I can't name them all, but the he gave an 11th one, which is thou shalt not bullshit thyself.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you handle that, you're pretty good. You tend to have a pretty good grasp on what is real and what is not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The it's difficult for people to take accountability for their own actions.
Yeah, of course. And look, there's a difference between being, let's say, there's a difference between fault and responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You are walking down Central Park, you're a woman, and you get raped. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And you get to decide what you're going to do with that.
Right.
I know of a story of a woman that was walking through Central Park. She got jumped by a homeless man who raped her. And as she's being raped, she looks at him in the eye and says, "It's okay. I see you. I forgive you." And she keeps repeating that. The man starts crying. He has to stop. She takes him home, gives him a hot meal, and sends him on his way. She was not a victim. She took responsibility to what was happening to her, and she decided to transform it into something that was not going to define her life.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very potent example of taking responsibility then in the moment when something has happened to you. And it's a very interesting example of it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah, especially with when it comes to things like education or physical form or things of that nature. It's like, I'm not in shape, and it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility if I'm wanting to become better.
Yeah.
Or right.
Yeah. And you can even take it a step further. Like, this is highly esoteric, so it's my view. But everything that happens to you, you called in. I grew up in Bogota, Colombia during the 80s and 90s, super dangerous place. And I never got mugged. I never got kidnapped. I never, because I don't wear that. Other people, we all know that person that is constantly worried about, getting robbed, and they get robbed all the time.
Right.
Because they're calling that in. They're calling that in. So yeah, everything is your responbility.
They have that sort of energy about them, and people can see that.
Yeah, and in a sense, some things are your fault.
Absolutely. Why do you think the separation of cause and effect is so pervasive, and how can people avoid falling into that trap?
Well, the separation of cause and effect is very pervasive because there's a lot of marketers out there that make you believe that you could just dream whatever you want to dream of and you can have it. And I don't mean to knock the manifesting movement. I have a lot of friends that are you know at the helm of that movement. It works for some people. It doesn't work for a vast majority of them, and the reason is because they separate cause and effect. The
Right.
reason is because we live in a culture where you just want the magic pill and you don't want to do the work, and you can just envision a nice house on the beach, and it's very easy to sell that you could just envision that, and then you'll get it. But that's not the truth. It takes work. It takes work. So yeah, that's the I can envision putting somebody on Mars as much as I want. That doesn't mean that I'm building SpaceX. You have to go build it. So people don't want to do the work. Now, the work has usually required vision, plan, and action. Vision, great. Most people can envision a great life or a great project or whatever. Planning has been very difficult. And that's what our tool does for you. This AI, the life guide, does it for you. It plans it all out for you. And then action is something that you have to do every day. There's no magic pill.
The separation of the cause of working out every day, having proper nutrition, from the effect of having a beautiful body, the separation of creating value in a profitable manner from the effect of having a very financially well off life. There's a lot of people that are selling this sort of magic pill, like you just said, of, oh, this is a way to get rich quick, this is a way to do 6 minute abs or whatever. And I feel like it's very appetizing for a lot of people, because they go, well, I don't have the time, I only have 6 minutes to do whatever this is. And
Well, in the case of 6 minute abs, it actually works. Like you could get abs in 6 minutes a day if you do it every day
that's the
for
thing.
many days.
Right.
So one thing that is important to recognize is that in order, like getting the life of your dreams is not like the most, you know, in most cases it's not this, you know, super hard thing that is impossible to achieve and that you have to
Hmm.
spend 20 hours a day trying to achieve. In most cases, that's not the case. But you do have to know what you're doing and do it consistently, and you'll be surprised at the how small these tiny habits
Yeah.
are. You just need to know what the tiny habits are, and you need to do it.
Yeah, man. It's consistency seems to be the key to this game. If you like we've done Bring Sally Up, that push up challenge, a few times, and it's like, if you do that for a week, it's one thing. If you do that for a year, you'll completely transform your body. Absolutely.
And that's a 3 minute exercise,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah,
Yeah, three minutes a day can change your life if you're willing to do it for a prolonged period of time.
that's right.
Absolutely. Can you recall a specific moment when a seemingly small action caused a ripple effect that transformed your life?
Mm, yeah, yeah. There was. At Zumba, so at Zumba we were right along the kind of functional benefit, uh, you know, we were competing with all these other programs that were promising functional benefits,
Mm.
like extrinsic benefits, a better body, more calorie burn, more muscle, that type of stuff. Less amount of time, 6-minute abs. And one day I was looking at a Zumba class, and I there's like a energetic shift. Something happened, and I just kind of had an impulse to ask the editor to stop the tape and and zoom into a woman's face. And when he zoomed in, I saw this woman in a total trance state. And I said, "What if that's it? What if that's what we sell?
Mm.
Instead of the extrinsic benefit of a beach body, we sell that emotion." And I decided to trust. I was 23 years old. I didn't, but I'm like, I'm gonna trust this. I'm gonna trust this that I that I'm seeing something interesting here. And then I convinced my partners to do a $60,000 photo shoot, which for us was, I mean, it was a ton of money.
Not breadcrumbs.
Uh-huh. And we hired this amazing photographer in LA, and we shot that. We shot people experiencing that. And then when we launched it, it was like it was like an idea whose time had come, that fitness did not have to be painful because movement is not painful. Um, and that was the beginning of the experiential fitness companies. Like we were the first ones.
Mm.
Then came CrossFit, and then Equinox branded into this whole thing, and all these companies started to move from 24-hour fitness, 6-minute abs, the muscle burn, calorie, into like the experience of fitness. But
Right.
it started with that, and and the ability to trust that.
Ditch the workout, join the party.
That's right.
What is the legacy that you hope to leave behind as a luminary?
Luminism. I my my the job will be done. The I'll put down the paintbrush when luminism has achieved what it is intended to achieve, which is to inspire the world,
Mm.
uh, to help everybody get out of their victim mentality and acknowledge that they are, whether they like it or not, they are their creator of their own reality. Whether they want to blame this president or that woman or this guy, irrelevant. They're creating their reality. And when that job is done, the job will be done.
The problem with placing so much, I guess, fault on other people. It's not my fault that I can't date. My mom never loved me enough, or whatever. You're sort of giving your power away, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're like, well, that example, my mom didn't love me enough. I can't date women because they'll never love me because my mom didn't. You're sort of passing your relationship life, the power over your relationship life to your mother.
Yeah.
You're giving your mom, you know, authority over your dating life. That doesn't seem exactly ideal. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Now, look, there are, psychological patterns that get created in a situation like that. That, yeah, they need to be addressed.
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying, yeah, the first few times that you date, you might run into situations, but it's your responsibility.
Yes.
Go do something about it. Go, learn and do the trauma healing work, whatever it is that you need to do to build the life of your dreams. We've got one shot at this that we can remember. Maybe there's more, but you're here now, and you can either be a waste of space and just bitch and moan about how the world's not fair, or you can create the life of your dreams. It's up to you, and it all comes down to taking responsibility.
How do you envision the future for humanity if more people embrace the principles of luminism, let's say 100 years from now?
Yeah, so we're at the inflection point. This is when we evolve into gods. And by gods, I mean people that can create anything almost instantaneously, because technology has caught up.
Yeah.
And so we can use technology to create whatever reality we want. We can use it to create hell on earth if we're unconscious, or heaven on earth if we're highly conscious. And so I envision a world where, many, many, many million people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people have embraced their responsibility over their own life, and have created their own life, have created themselves in the vision of their values.
I think Albert Einstein said technology sufficiently advanced will be indistinguishable from magic.
That's right.
We're getting close to that point.
Yeah, we're here. Look, if I the as we said before, the future human is the artist. Everybody else is in the middle, right? We are seeing this happening in real time, like in the music industry, for example. All the music stores and the people in the middle all got destroyed. A lot of music is direct to consumer mostly. And so ultimately the person that is going to keep their job is the artist. Everybody else is going to be automated. And to be an artist required a lot of perfecting your craft.
Yeah.
So that you could transmit, you could emote through your craft. Right? But those days are gone. I don't need to learn the piano for 20 years in order to create a great song. I can tell AI how to do it. The only thing that matters is my heart. Can I transmit something? And that's the skill that's going to be necessary.
Yeah, the sort of technical know-how that it used to take to, using your example, create a great piano song is 10,000 hours on the piano, and then you can really communicate with that instrument, right? But now it's you just talk to ChatGPT and you're like, hey, I wanna make a beautiful piano ballad, a la Beethoven or whatever, and it cooks you up one real fast. It's a crazy time we're living in, man. Yeah. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell him, I'm looking at him right now. It's his first day in military school and he's scared. And I would tell him that you're crazy is the best thing about you. And that's one day you will see. And that to stay true to that, stay true to himself, and not try to conform, because that's not the right path.
Resist conformity and use your crazy, as you put it, as a force for good.
That's right.
Absolutely.
All progress depends on the unreasonable man. Somebody said something about the unreasonable man. The unreasonable man is what all progress depends on. So be unreasonable. don't 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 let your life vision be dictated by anybody else.
Yeah.
It's yours.
And solely yours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the unreasonable man is interesting. There's been there's been some luminaries in history that have been quite unreasonable. For example, Vincent van Gogh chopping off his fucking ear and then giving it to his lady, right? That was the deal.
I don't remember. I don't know that
I
story.
it seems quite quite unreasonable, but I think it was him giving a piece of himself to his woman, which is a, in theory, a act of passion, but in reality it's a self mutilation for another. It's a little freaky.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe don't chop off your ear. But you're the point is the point is you have the power to create whatever life you want,
Absolutely.
and and the world is trying to convince you that you don't, but deep down inside you know you do.
Yeah.
And anybody listening to this, I'm not talking to that fearful part of your mind. I'm talking to that knowing part of your soul. And and I know that the fearful voice is loud, and the that voice of your soul is very soft. Listen to that.
Yeah, the inherent knowledge within the righteousness of, well, I can change my reality. I have the power to do this. Why not do it?
That's right.
Yeah. What's a personal value or belief that you've changed over time, and what led to that transformation?
Yeah. So I used to think that. Uh, I used to think that happiness was on the other side of money and fame and cars and houses and girlfriends, and that's because I listened to a lot of rap music when I was a teenager. And then when I turned 30 years old, my one of these rappers was in my birthday party, Wyclef, and he was singing "No Jeffrey, No Cry" instead of "No Woman, No Cry." They were all singing "No Jeffrey, No Cry," and everybody was laughing. I was laughing. Everybody was laughing. But I had one of those moments where your life kind of stands still,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of have an outer body experience. And I looked at myself and I was like, no, I really am crying because there's nothing else I can get in the outside world that is going to fill this infinite void that I have inside of
Yeah.
me. Not another house or another business deal or another nothing. And so I had to kind of stop and face the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I started to realize that nothing that anybody can take from me is mine to begin with.
Mm.
And therefore I cannot define myself by anything that anybody can take away from me. So I can't define myself by the success that I've had, the wealth that I've created, um, anything of that nature. The only thing that I can define myself with or through are my values and my integrity towards them. So, am I kind? Am I loving? And am I sincere? That's what defines me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Anything that can be taken from you is not something to identify with.
Yeah. You look at a guy like Mandela,
Mm.
everything was taken away from him. And yet he's Mandela. You look at a guy like Viktor Frankl, right? They are great people because they understood that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you just talked about how happiness you thought was on the other side of all of these externally validating sorts of things. How has your definition of happiness or success changed since that
That's a great,
30th
yeah.
birthday?
Well, I don't think that happiness is the objective. I
Mm,
don't think that living a happy life is realistic. If you want to feel happiness, you're going to feel sadness. I mean, you could opt to numb, but then you're numbing everything. You're
mm,
numbing happiness and you're numbing, sadness and every other feeling. I think a better, and this is not, I learned this from Brene Brown, a more realistic or yeah, a better goal is to be wholehearted, to
mm.
feel everything, to be present to your life.
So to 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 be more wholehearted is to feel the negative more intensely, but also feel the positive more intensely.
Yeah.
So those pits and those peaks are very very visceral, as opposed to just, oh well, I'm not exactly happy, but I'm not exactly sad. I'm just
Right.
right. It's interesting if you pine to feel happy all the time, you will find yourself chasing that, and then you'll never have it. But if you're like for me, if I'm not feeling a sort of existential dread or or sadness or whatever, I am happy. Happy is my baseline. As long as nothing is going completely backwardly terrible, it's I'm fine.
Yeah.
And to me, fine is, well, I'm jovial. I'm happy. Right.
Yeah.
What practical steps can listeners to this podcast take to begin to transform their lives today?
The first step is realize, acknowledge that you are creating your reality. Whether your reality sucks or doesn't, you are creating it.
Mm,
And acknowledge that whenever you're complaining about your reality, you are not taking responsibility. So then the second step is stop complaining. The third step would be envision a better reality. Envision a reality that you like more. The fourth step would be get clear on why you want it. Get really clear on why you want it so that it's unshakable.
mm,
And then create a plan or use our tool to create a plan, and then align your goals and your habits to be in that reality. Now, it's important to live in the vision of your reality,
mm,
to come to your everyday life from the future. And one way to do that would be to maybe create like if you have a room in your house that you can turn into the temple of your life vision,
mm.
where you can step in there and become the person that you would be when you're in that reality, in that distorted reality.
Yeah.
Become that. Give yourself space for that. You deserve that. That's your birthright. Because you have imagination, you deserve that. Allow yourself that.
Sort of personify your future life. Not necessarily giving it a name or a different personality, but give yourself a chance to live and feel that in the present, so that you can know what you are working toward every day.
Yeah. And worship that.
Mm.
Like instead of, you know, you know, following a guru or following, follow yourself 10 years into the future.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Speak to yourself. Have a conversation with that. Let that be your guiding principle.
And the issue with
You are not Tony Robbins. His version of happiness, of not happiness, but a full life is not yours.
Right.
Yours is going to be different. You're nobody else. You are you. And the only person that you should kneel to, that you should bow to, is you. Your higher self, let's say.
The issue that a lot of people run into that don't have a vision is that they or I should say they don't have an overarching goal or something to work towards, is that there's no sort of decision making framework on, well, should I stay in and should I work, or should I go out with my friends and get blackout drunk and do whatever. There's no sort of decision making criteria upon which you can figure out what is good and what is bad, because there's no sort of baseline or goal, right?
Right. And when you ask those questions, who are you asking them to? If you're asking those questions to anybody other than your higher self, other than the Justin 2.0, you're going to get a wrong answer. I mean, if you're asking your friend whether you should go out drinking with your friend, you're going to end up in a drinking with your friend, right? Now, if you ask Tony Robbins, the answer might be no, but no for other,
Right.
for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's appropriate to go drinking with your friend. Maybe you and your friend need to bond tonight, and that's the only way to heal some thing between you and your friend, and it's perfectly appropriate. But the only person that knows is you 10 years from you, your idealized you talking back at you.
Are you familiar with the Solomon paradox?
No.
King Solomon in the Bible was he had fantastic advice. People would come to him from faraway lands and ask him for advice, but his own life was less than perfect. He had issues with his spouse. He would cheat on his spouse all the time. His
I
relationship
thought
with
he
his
had like
kids was
5,000 spouses.
well, that was probably the
Okay.
deal. But basically it's the Solomon paradox is the idea that people give better advice than they can receive.
Right.
So Alex Hormozy has an interesting use of this, instead of asking, because he's at such a point where he can't really ask people that are ahead of him for advice, because he's made hundreds of millions of dollars and things of that nature. He's opened up a Google Doc for himself that he calls Sessions with Solomon, and he'll ask himself 30, 40, 50 years in the future, what should I do right now? And then he'll step out, change his shift his frame, and become himself older with a scraggly beard, gray hair, done all these cool things, has all the epic stories. And then he'll answer himself, and then just taking a step back and kind of changing his frame will sort of make him be able to receive his own advice and actually act on it, as opposed to just being like, oh, well, I should work, but I don't want to. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And in a few months, maybe by the time this airs, we will have developed a tool that does that for you. It's your own AI. It's not Siri or Alexa. It's your AI that is basically your higher self, your life guide, that helps you become yourself and create the best version of your life, according to your principles.
Yeah.
And so that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, the idea of creating your life in the image of your values is something that has left a lot of people in today's day and age.
Yeah,
for sure. And the
and it's and the reason why I keep saying God, like I am a big believer in God, and but it's a new era for humanity. It says that God created us in the image of himself. Is that
something like that? Yeah.
Well, now we are. Once we create this better version of ourselves. We're creating ourselves in the image of
it.
And that's a very powerful thing.
Absolutely. Where can the audience learn more about your work or join your mission?
Luminism. Just Google Luminism. It's not my work. It is all of our work. Justin is involved, but on top of that, it's a movement. It is not, it's headless. It's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's an idea, and that's the helm. That's at the helm of it. It belongs to everybody. So, Google Luminism.
All right, man.
All right.
Good talk.
Thanks, bro.